Anh trong cơn gió đông về, phải chăng khi biết yêu, giấc mơ là nơi bắt.
In this lesson, we're going to look at a few words that we use for work, or to be vigilant on top of things, or to maybe be struggling because we're working too hard. These words can be used in multiple different contexts, so it's good to have a separate lesson about them. And then also I threw in this word for natural or naturally. They use it very broadly in Vietnamese, more broadly than we would in English, and so it's an important one that you'll hear a lot, and it has multiple meanings. So this first one, vất vả, it means to struggle, like someone that works really hard. Like if you're a single mom and you have two jobs, right? You're struggling with your life or with work. We could say vất vả quá, cô ấy vất vả quá in that case. Or as the example I have here, tôi làm việc rất là vất vả. I worked very hard. Tôi làm việc rất là vất vả. So in this case, it means strenuous. So it can be hard or strenuous, or it can mean to struggle. Okay, so you hear it in both contexts. Vất vả. Tôi làm việc rất là vất vả. And then chăm chỉ, it means someone who's really on top of things, right? Someone who's very thorough. All right. So this would be a nice compliment if someone says that you're chăm chỉ. It would be that you're getting your stuff done, you're taking care of business. That's kind of what it means. So ví dụ, anh ấy chăm chỉ lắm luôn á. Anh ấy chăm chỉ lắm luôn á. Now you notice when I said lung, I kind of had this extra emphasis at the end of that word. This is a colloquial way that Vietnamese people often end their sentences or say the final word in the sentence. It sounds weird when you first start hearing it, but it's very, very common, and it's one of the things that will make you sound like a native speaker if you can get it down. So if I don't do this, I would say, anh ấy chăm chỉ lắm luôn. Luôn is also fine, right? Remember, luôn means to emphasize something, and lắm means a lot. So if we use rất before the verb, we say, anh ấy rất là chăm chỉ, or we can say lắm, and we use it after the verb. Anh ấy chăm chỉ lắm luôn á. Lắm luôn á. Luôn á. It's like you have this that comes off of the word. And if you're listening to a lot of native speakers, especially in the South, you will notice this, and then you will get a feel for how to do it properly. Anh ấy chăm chỉ lắm luôn á. Luôn á. Okay? The regular word is just luôn. Chăm chỉ lắm luôn. But you can say luôn á. And that's how they say it, okay? And then tự nhiên means to be natural. So if I want to say for someone if they came into my house as a guest and they seem nervous, or I want them to make themselves at home, I would say, anh tự nhiên đi. Just be natural, or we could say, in this next example I have, for example, ví dụ, tự nhiên tôi cảm giác sợ mỗi lần tôi thấy một con chuột. So this one we're saying, naturally I feel afraid every time I see a rat. And so we can start a sentence with this word tự nhiên. So in English we wouldn't really do this. We wouldn't say naturally, but it's sort of a colloquialism that sort of means generally. In this case it means like generally, but we use it very often. Tự nhiên tôi cảm giác sợ mỗi lần tôi thấy một con chuột. Okay, so con chuột is rat or mouse. They use the same word for both, and they would just describe what type of rat or mouse if they were going to be more specific. They do this with quite a lot of things. And we learned before that for animals and living things, we use this noun form, con, right? So like a human is con người, a dog is con chó, and a rat or mouse is con chuột, chuột. Okay, so that's something that we already learned, so you should be able to recognize that. Mỗi lần means every time. Mỗi means every, and lần means time. In the case of an individual thing happening once. Time in general is thời gian. Bao nhiêu thời gian, how much time. Thời gian, which we also learned before, but how many times, we say bao nhiêu lần. Okay, lần. Giao huyền. Tự nhiên tôi cảm giác sợ mỗi lần tôi thấy một con chuột. Okay, so tự nhiên means naturally or generally. Tôi cảm giác means to feel, right? Cảm giác, to feel. And to be afraid or to be scared is sợ, tôi sợ. A lot of times you'll hear kids or maybe Vietnamese girls, they say, tôi sợ lắm. They're scared of something. Maybe they're scared of the busy traffic or they're scared of dogs or rats. And you say, tôi sợ. And they emphasize this sợ there at the end. Tự nhiên tôi cảm giác sợ mỗi lần tôi thấy một con chuột. Okay? Every time I see, mỗi lần tôi thấy một con chuột. So thấy means to see. Okay? And I will read these back to you from the top. Vất vả. Tôi làm việc rất là vất vả. Chăm chỉ. Anh ấy chăm chỉ lắm luôn á. Tự nhiên tôi cảm giác sợ mỗi lần tôi thấy một con chuột. Okay, so practice those, memorize those, and also try to come up with some sentences of your own. When I give you one or two examples and I explain what the word means, how you can use it, a really good process for you to go through, a good exercise, is to come up with a few of your own sentences and get used to being able to make the language your own and make up things to say. Because in the real world, of course, you're going to be wanting to say things that are your own thoughts. And so that's a really good exercise. So I recommend, make at least 2 or 3 sentences of your own that go with these words. And if you struggle to do that, it means you need to build your vocabulary out enough so that you can make full sentences. And that's okay. That's good to recognize certain things that you're struggling with. Say, I want to be able to say this, but I'm lacking a couple words for this or that. Then you know the next step in your education, what you need to be focusing on. So the more you try to speak, the more you actually go out there in the world and use the language, not only do you improve, but you highlight areas of weakness so that you can improve, which is one of the reasons why you really have to be immersed with language. You need immersion. If you just study from textbooks in your home country, you don't have people to practice with, it's just so difficult to get good and to ever get any kind of fluency. But on the other hand, if you're immersed, you can learn languages very, very rapidly. And I've seen this happen in many, many cases. I myself learned language very quickly, and it was just because I was working hard at it, but I was immersed living in that country. Okay, so good luck with that, and we'll see you in the next lesson. And now for native speaker tip 7. If you can't make it to Vietnam, find a local restaurant with native speakers you can practice with. Find a pen pal online to exchange letters with, or find a chat room online to practice on. There are ways now with all the technology we have at our disposal to practice your language. Even if you don't have total immersion, if you don't have any kind of immersion, you can still practice no matter where you live because we have the internet, we have restaurants, Vietnamese restaurants, Asian restaurants, everywhere you can go. Every single city, large and small, will have some of these. Another good place to go would be to a lot of the places that do nails. Most of the nail tech places where you get your nails done are run by Vietnamese people now. I'm amazed. Everywhere I go, they have like a monopoly on the industry almost. And so those are places that you can go and practice a little bit of the language. Maybe someone there will want to exchange English and Vietnamese lessons with you, and it'll give you another opportunity to practice. So that's something that might help you. And then native speaker tip number 8 is that there are 4 different accents in Vietnam. There's a northern one spoken in and around Hanoi, central spoken in and around Hue, where we say Hue. It's actually got a yao sac on it. The southern one, which is spoken in and around Saigon, and then we say western, even though it's spoken in the southwest of Saigon, down in the Mekong. That's actually western accent, and it sounds even more southern than the south, which is kind of funny. But it's good to be aware of the fact that there are 4 different accents, not just north and south. There are some nuances, and the more you get used to the language, the more useful it will be to be able to identify, where someone's from when you hear them speak. And even if you're going to focus on one area, the area that you're living in, it's useful to be able to understand some of the words from the other areas because they will use slightly different vocabulary. They will say things differently. And as you become more fluent, this is just very useful to keep in mind. So for now, if you're still not to that level yet, it's a good thing to be aware of.
Anh trong cơn gió đông về, phải chăng khi biết yêu giấc mơ là nơi